Despite all his rage, he's still just Nicolas Cage. Despite all his rage, he's still just Nicolas Cage. And someone will say his career can never be saved. Despite all his rage, he's still just Nicolas Cage. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Just Nicolas Cage, where I very slowly work my way through Nicolas Cage's filmography. Today I'm talking about the 1993 movie Deadfall. In Deadfall, Michael Biehn and James Coburn are a father and son conman team, but when one of their scams go wrong and James Coburn gets shot and killed, his dying words to his son are that Michael Biehn's uncle has the cake and that he needs to get it back. That Michael Biehn sets out to find out whatever the hell that means, and he ends up working for his uncle and his crazy henchman, played by Nicolas Cage. You know, this is where I usually give a bit of an overview about the movie in general, its kind of vibe, or I tell you an interesting tidbit about its production, and then I ease my way into talking about the performances. But you know what? Screw it. I can't wait. I'm going straight to Nicolas Cage this time. Right off the bat, Nicolas Cage's look is insane. This movie was directed and co-written by Christopher Coppola, Nicolas Cage's brother, and apparently he told Nick Cage that he could dress however he wanted for the part. Which does explain the weird wig and the mustache and the sunglasses. But I think that also explains the performance. Because this is the performance of a man who was allowed to do whatever he wanted to do as well. And this results in one of the craziest Nicolas Cage performances I've ever seen. Every second he's on screen is dynamite. His voice changes throughout the movie. At first he's kind of doing a clenched teeth kind of weird thing with his voice.
The baby's about 3 months behind on his payments.
But then you have him going high pitch. I love the way he goes, bullshit. Bullshit.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
At one point, he sounds like Jim Carrey as Fire Marshal Bill.
Show me the Joker.
Oh, come on. Put the gun down.
Just show me the fucking Joker.
Let me show you something.
And then you've got him doing some of the best screams and freakouts I've ever seen.
I know what this is. Lou trying to stop me out because of his crazy little nephew being around. Well, vive la fucking France, man! Hi, fucking yeah!
I like that he even yells at a coat hanger at one point.
The fucking hangers!
And even when he doesn't have any dialogue, he's doing something weird. Narratively, his character's a bit like Frank from Scarface. The guy who shows the main character the ropes and gets his girlfriend stolen by him. That's pretty much all there is to his character. There are a few times you see him huffing something like poppers or something, which probably explains why he's so crazy. The only problem I have with Nicolas Cage in this is that he's only in like less than 40 minutes out of an hour and 35-minute movie. Which really sucks because this movie drags when he's not on screen. As for the rest of the cast, the main guy's played by Michael Biehn and he gives a really bland and lifeless performance. And you notice it even more because he's next to Nicolas Cage, who is the polar opposite of bland and lifeless. James Coburn is solid in this, he does fine with what he has, which isn't much. The lead actress is a woman called Sarah Trigger, who doesn't have a Wikipedia, but when I looked her up I found this weird article about how she was accused of trying to kill John Cryer by hiring an assassin. She was found innocent, but after some of those seasons of 2.5 Men, I'd understand where she was coming from if it was true. There's a lot of other big names that make small appearances in this movie. Peter Fonda, Talia Shire, and Mickey DeLenz all have really forgettable cameos that aren't worth talking about. Same goes with Charlie Sheen. When Charlie Sheen showed up, I was like, okay, at least he might be entertaining. But all he does is play a game of billiards for like 5 minutes and says nothing of interest. The only cameo that's really worth talking about is Angus Scrimm, who you might know as the old man from Phantasm that throws these silver balls at you. And here he's looking like a straight-up Bond villain. He's dressed like Dr. No and he has like a robot claw for a hand. He gets a little bit close to slightly filling the void that Nicolas Cage left, but he's only in it for a few minutes. Wait, look at that crystal ball thing on his desk. Is it in this guy's contract to only be in movies where he has a shiny ball? The meat of this movie is a mediocre neo-noir story. And its failures at exploring that genre made extra apparent to me because I recently watched Red Rock West, a Nicolas Cage movie that did the neo-noir stuff way better. You've even got a corny voiceover with cheesy lines of dialogue that feel like a parody of a noir movie.
But that photo was the hook that would send me deeper into the shadows, squinting for the truth.
The movie just feels so cheap and poorly made. Like, look at that up there. Is that the top of the set? Come on, guys. But worst of all, outside the Nicolas Cage scenes, this movie is just boring. And the whole movie builds up to the shocking twist. It's one of those twists that hinges upon a character acting one way. where you go, wait, what if the character went left instead of right? And then the scheme wouldn't have worked, and then the whole thing just kind of falls apart. So overall, it's kind of hard to evaluate this movie, because a large chunk of it is bad and dull. And I don't even know if I can call the parts with Nicolas Cage technically good. But man did I love those 40 minutes he was in the film. You know, it's movies like this that make me thank God for Nicolas Cage. Or maybe those Reddit guys are right and he is the one true God. Because he sure felt like a savior to me while watching this. Cage has built this reputation of being able to elevate bad movies. But man, is it more evident here than any other Nicolas Cage movie I've ever seen. When I reviewed Vampire's Kiss, I talked about how Judd Nelson was originally attached to the film, and if Judd Nelson was in it instead of Nicolas Cage, then nobody would have cared about this movie. But in retrospect, I think that's a little bit unfair. Because without Nicolas Cage, Vampire's Kiss is still a movie about a guy who thinks he's turning into a vampire. That's kind of a kooky concept. But without Nicolas Cage in Deadfall, it would just be a poorly made thriller that nobody would have cared about. Cage carries this movie on his back with his captivatingly batshit performance. And his performance is right up there with Vampire's Kiss in terms of insanity. If you're a fan of Nicolas Cage when he's acting crazy, then this movie is essential watching. But just start the movie about 17 minutes in and turn it off about 56 minutes in, because that is all that is worth watching about this film. I actually did see on Wikipedia that there's a sequel to this movie. In 2017, he reprised the character in a movie called Arsenal, which really boggles my mind for a specific reason. Because, spoiler alert, at the end of Deadfall, Nicolas Cage gets his head dunked in a vat of boiling oil and he dies. So why or how he is in a sequel is beyond me, but I guess I'll find out if I ever get to that one. So the next movie Nicolas Cage made was Guarding Tess, and until then guys, thanks for watching.